Hey guys, so I just made a video on how to deal with creep spread. It was a longer video. It was about 50 minutes to an hour long, probably closer to 50. And yeah, I didn't delete it. The file got corrupted. I must have exited out. I must have exited out of OBS too soon, and file got corrupted, so I have to redo this all over again. Hopefully I can make it through this time. But at least the good news is that it'll be a bit more streamlined. I've already gone. I rehearsed my main points like 5 times throughout the entire VOD, and I guess now I gotta do it again. Anyways, enough with the negativity. We are going to be learning how to chop away creep spread and to control it and to make sure it's all under control and that it doesn't go too crazy. So we're going to be stepping into this game between Dongregu and Cure. Cure, he's not one of the players that's always in the spotlight, but he's a very smart player, and I chose this game specifically because of what Cure does to limit creep spread. In this game we will see that he has a specific not a response, but a specific reaction to dealing with Dongregu's creep spread based on Cure's opening. So this is going to be a pretty normal game. It's a Reaper expand into Hellion Banshee play, and he gets 2 Cloak Banshees before switching into Bio. It's pretty. I mean, 2 Cloak Banshees is as aggressive as you're gonna get if you're not going mech and if you're gonna switch into Bio. And he only makes 6 Hellions as well, so he's really. There's multiple purposes for this Hellion Banshee force. First, he wants to apply harassment. He wants to deal damage and maintain map control. 2, he is also safe from Baneling all-ins and Roach Bane all-ins so that he can safely take a 3rd base and secure it. And 3, he uses the Hellion Banshee force in a very unique way that is able to deal with creep. So, taking a look at the map while the game is still young, we can see. Oh wow, I didn't realize it, but Dongregu, he's going for a 15 hack, so I guess he's really afraid of Cure doing a 2-axe all-in or something. Very interesting. It's not the worst. It's not a very inefficient build. Like, you're not gonna be very far behind just because you have the queen out, and that queen is gonna have an inject, and that inject is gonna give you extra drones. So you're still gonna hit a decent saturation. So you're not gonna really lose too much mining time by delaying your hacks and going queen first. And on the bright side, it means you're safe against any 2-axe all-ins. And I guess we can see that since this map is very big, Dongregu's overlords wouldn't be able to get to see Cure's base in time to see if he in fact did go for a 2-axe or not. So it's a pretty wise choice for Dongregu, who always wants to go into a late macro game and display his brute force of clicking the keyboard at a ridiculous rate. So Cure here. Okay, so his Reaper comes in. It's gonna scout. Oh, do you see the gas? Nope, but he did see the queen. So he knows that there's a queen out. He goes he knows that there's a queen out. He doesn't know if there's gas. He might have seen the drones mining, but we don't know for sure. So he instantly goes all the way back because right now he's making a reactor. He made a reactor before his 2nd Reaper to kind of make it more efficient so he can get the Marine out to deny scouting. So his Reaper needs to go immediately back to the natural to defend against possible links that might have wandered across the map. And I guess one last thing about Dongregu's play, besides going for the pool first, is that he also gets Overlord speed as well. And I think that's really good for him, or really cool to see, because you're basically guaranteed a free scout if the Zerg player goes for Overlord speed, and you can put your Overlords into position a lot faster, and last reason I promise. The Vikings take a lot longer to shoot at the overlords and to kill them, because speed overlords are kind of pretty fast, and Vikings won't be able to get that many kills. So as well as scouting, it also directly helps Dongregu's map control by being able to spread out all those overlords. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for some reason. Yeah, I'm just really tired and kind of annoyed that I have to redo this entire video again. But hopefully it'll be better this time and more informative, because I will be able to add stuff in, because this is take 2. So I was just noticing Dongregu's third base was taken at 6 minutes. It's pretty normal timing. So he wasn't really slowed down by the pull first. So if you guys see a pull first, don't ever, or pull first and then an expand, don't ever think it's always going to be aggressive, because 90% of the time it's going to be defensive so that you can get a fast queen out, and the Zerg player is not really going to be behind as well. I mean, as we can see, Dongregu is kind of still ahead in supply, and he's droning up very freely. So it really wasn't a, it was just a very safe opener. It's the safest you can do. So since this Hellion Banshee force is kind of revving up, I want to talk about this map a little bit so that you can understand how creep is spread. So there are 2 potential 4th base locations. Dongregu can take this base or this base, and there are 2 pathways that the creep spread is gonna go through. It's this way, and it's gonna cover this base and make it more secure by having a creep highway. And there's this base, and it can be secured with creep as well in this area. And then there's this middle passage, and if we take a look, it doesn't lead directly to the 3rd, but there are little pathways so that you can switch from either side of the map relatively quickly. So the first cool thing about Cure's build and how he plans to actively deal with creep tumors is that he is going to scan over here and then take out some creep tumors with his Reaper Hellion Force, and then he's going to use the Banshee to kind of like divert the Queen's attention away from the Reaper Hellion Force. So we're going to see this in action in just a second. And Cure also gets really lucky, and he's able to snipe that creep tumor off. Always a good feeling to get something for free. Alright, so as we saw there, all of Dongregu's queens that were like used for defense, they're all getting diverted, or the Banshee is diverting their attention so that this Reaper Hellion Force, yep, there's those 3 queens, and there's the Reaper Hellion Force, can freely deny this creep. And what this creep spread, or what this scan does at 8 minutes and 50 seconds into the game, is it makes this 4th base a lot harder to take, because the creep highway is not going to be as far out. Let me just make sure this VOD is recording, because I'm being very paranoid right now. Alright, cool, it's recording. So it's gonna make this 4th base a lot harder to take, and it's also gonna prevent the creep highway from spreading, which allows Dongregu map vision of this entire area of the map control because of the map vision, and a faster reinforcement, or a faster counterattack path, because Zerg units are sped up by the creep. So that's a good scan, and it was worked into Cure's play. He's basically using this Hellion Banshee play to limit creep. Now, the second scan is gonna come with these 2 Banshees, and there's a little bit more variation to how Cure does it. So with his first Banshee, he's already seen the 5th and 6th gas being taken at the 3rd base. And these 2 Banshees are always better than 1, by the way. It's a lot easier to micro, they do a lot more damage, it's just a win-win. So this Banshee's kind of weak right now, so Cure's gonna send it back to heal it up before he scans. He's gonna do a scan at about I believe 12 minutes over here to limit the creep spread, all of this creep spread, from being able to help reinforce and defend this 4th base. But first, he does a scan over here at about 10:30. It's a pretty normal scan timing, and I believe it looks for roach play or any signs of unnormal play. But he gets really lucky and scouts the spire, not even halfway done, and he sees the 2 evoke chambers. That's what he was really looking for, the evoke chambers, because that indicates that Dongrigu is going to be getting 1-1, and so he's going to be safe, and that the Mutalisks are going to be delayed. So now that Cure knows that Dongrigu is playing a normal game, all of his decisions will be based off of a normal game and not being in the dark. So he repairs this. This Viking, it's trying to get these Overlords, but it's not really working out very well because Overlord speed is kind of a good upgrade. So this Viking, it's trying to get at the Overlords. It's not doing a great job, but what it does is it diverts these 3 queens' attentions again. It's like throwing a pebble at a troll, like in Harry Potter, and it's just really forcing these queens kind of out of position. But Dongrigu doesn't even know that because he doesn't know these 2 Banshees, and what Cure is going to do next is going to happen. So now at 12 minutes or 11:50, Cure is going to be able to snipe 4 creep tumors with the scan, and this is another method of dealing with the creep. So in 12 minutes, in the first 12 minutes before a major push has even come out, Cure has used his Reaper Hellion Force to scan over here and to deny creep. The creep from reinforcing this 4th/5th base and from spreading a creep highway, maintaining map control, etc., etc. And he has also done a second scan over here with the 2 Banshees, killing 2 active tumors, making the creep recede, and yada yada yada, whatever I said about this hallway, because it's basically mitosis. So he's done 2 scans by 12 minutes into the game. He's already started to do a very active job at denying creep. And as we can see, that was a bad trade, by the way. He just got his units cut out position, but it wasn't the end of the world because those units have already done their job. So now his first push is going to come out, and by the time his first push has already come out, the creep spread, this creep spread is going to be back in place, but he's going to do another scan at about 13 minutes into the game, and that racks him up to a total of 3 scans used to deny creep. So we already know that Cure is really fighting hard to deny this creep spread and prevent it from spreading. And even though he's doing that, the creep is still going to spread anyways. So you really need a game plan on what you're going to do with the timing window that you have created by moving the creep backwards. And Cure's going to be trying to deny this creep, move it backwards so that he can assault this 4th base. And if he can get the creep away so that there's no creep highway to help defend his 4th base, he's going to be able to camp right outside of the 4th base and take a good cost-efficient engagement off of creep. As we can see, he's on creep right now, so the engagement doesn't go nearly as well. It kind of gets cleaned up. Dongrigu pulls back for a second just to wait for the Mutalisks to pop out, but then he ends up cleaning up most of the forces. So really the main thing that this whole entire push accomplished was scanning over here and denying the creep once again to this ever so important 4th base. And as we can see here, the supplies, it wasn't a good trade for the Terran player at all. He's behind in resources lost, but he has stopped the creep from spreading. And we can see, or as we see throughout the rest of this game, it's going to become a recurring pattern that Cure scans over here and then engages the army. But more importantly, scans where the 4th base is to deny the creep, so that he has an easier time at trying to destroy the 4th base, because that's his goal with this army of a lot of bio, which, by the way, he has gotten 2 tech labs, so he is going to be very marauder heavy, which adds some tank ability into his army, which is kind of nice. But he doesn't really have any answer to these Mutalisks for the rest of the game, besides these Marines. And as long as Dongrigu pulls back, he lost a few Mutalisks there, but as long as Dongrigu pulls back, he's he's not really gonna die to any like Marine versus Mutalisks fire unless he really needs to use his Mutalisks. So one of the main things that Cure neglects, I'm just going to go over it because this is probably what costs him the game, is all these counterattacks. For as many times that Cure scans throughout the game, Dongregyu does equal amount of counterattacks, if not more, to this poor third base. And it could have easily been avoided by having a sensor tower in place so that Cure's army wouldn't be out of position. Even his rally line is going in the direction of his push, so he really has no units to defend this. And he was just caught with his pants down as well, because of the lack of vision on this side of the map. So this is going to do a ton of damage. He's stimming all of his units back because he knows he's in a terrible position, and he takes decent trade, but it wasn't something he wanted to do because it disrupts his economy and it forces him out of position, and it allows Dongregyu some time for the creep to spread back. So when Cure ends up going back to this area, he's gonna have to scan again and start making the creep recede backwards. Kind of a... Never mind. Alright, so... Again, these counterattacks. These Mutalisks, Dongregu's Mutalisks, like, not taking any credit away from Dongregu, but Dongregu has done an excellent job with his macro and his unit control. These Mutalisks have just been pestering the third base over and over as much as time allows. And now, like, this creep, it wouldn't have been so far out if Cure wasn't caught so out of position. So already his game plan is kind of being tampered with by Dongregu's counterattacks. But he did scan again, so he's like he's actively fighting the tumors back, and he has most of his army off of creep. But what Dongregu does is he will engage as long as there's creep. So like his banelings are still on creep, so he's still gonna engage. But Cure does a really good job here and ends up winning the engagement because he has most of his army, or he splits his army up into two separate armies first of all, and he stims forward with a little bit, and it kind of looks like his main army because his army is pre-spread over here. So that makes Dongregu want to attack him this way and attack this army, but little does he know that Cure has his other half of the army right outside of Dongregu's vision, and Dongregu can't see this because his creep spread is being limited and he doesn't have any changelings or anything. So it forces Dongregu into a very unfavorable position, or engagement. And Dongregu did think it was a favorable position for him because all he saw on his screen was these units, but he didn't see on the minimap this army coming in from the side and being able to flank all these banelings and killing them. So Cure gets a really good engagement from that, but he does end up overextending. As we can see, this creep, like, even though it's gone, it still acts as a buffer between the fourth base and Cure's army, and it allows the Zerg to get a defender's advantage. So Cure doesn't really want to engage onto this because banelings are twice as much effective on creep than they are off. So he knows this. He's waiting outside, and because Dongregu also knows this, that Cure can't engage effectively on creep, he's going to send his Mutalisks to the third base and do some more, as much harassment as he can, which I think is really good. Like, it's really good knowledge by Dongregu to know that he's able to send his Mutalisks over here to do some damage, and then that preemptively forces Cure to take a fight on creep because Dongregu's Mutalisks are out of position and are going to be AWOL for the fight. But as we can see here, this is a very inefficient engagement, and what Dongregu does, which is very smart, is to engage only on the creep. And creep, with or without tumors, as long as there's creep there, it's good for the Zerg. So as we see here, or when the observer clicks over there, there we go, we can still see a bunch of creep spread, and Dongregu's only going to attack as long as Cure is on top of the creep spread. And as soon as the creep spread starts running out, he backs up immediately, which I think is very good. He's able to thin out Cure's army slightly and buy more time and allow those Mutalisks to do damage. And as a result, Cure realizes he can't fight into Dongregu's reinforcement line in reinforcements, so he has to go back and defend this third base. And as a result, he loses this positioning. This fourth base becomes slightly undefended because his army is no longer in the path that defends it. But this is a bad engagement for Dongregu. He sees all these marauders and a few marines, so he thinks that he's able to take this engagement off of creep, but he didn't see the group of marines in the back, so Cure catches a break and is able to clean this up and kind of take a supply lead as a result of that. Or not a supply lead, just like it evens out and he's back into the game as well. But these Mutalisks, they're just brutal. So enough about how brutal Mutalisks are. And I don't want to like explain too much about what's happening in the game. I just want to focus more on creep spreading and how to deal with it and what kind of a plan that Cure has. I hope I haven't been calling him True. That would be sucky. But what kind of a game plan that Cure has to deal with creep. As we can see here, there's the middle, and there hasn't been a single scan used in the middle pathway, but it's also the one that Cure is least afraid of because it doesn't really serve a purpose. It doesn't defend either of these bases. There has been one scan over here, and we can see the creep is about here. This is what the creep spread would be like if there were 0 scans. This is what it's like with 1 scan, and this is what it's like with, like, I believe he's used 3 to 4 scans here already. Every time his army goes there, he scans ahead and clears creep. So that's what it looks like when the most scans have been used. And as we can see here, if there wasn't a scan that was used here, then the creep spread would be where the creep spread over here is, and it would cover this base as well. And that would allow Dongregu to really safely take this 5th base, and because of his overlord positioning and the creep spread, this 5th base would be completely defended and give Dongregu a heads up to be able to posture his army in a defensive positioning to keep that 5th base alive from any of Cure's attacks or drops that may occur. So that's why Cure did scan once over here, and the rest of his scans have been used to try to break this 4th base of Dongregu's and to keep the creep spread as little as possible between the 4th base and the rest of the Zerg highway, and to get rid of the buffer that it also serves between the army and the 4th base. So that's pretty much all I wanted to take a look at this game. Cure does end up losing this game, but he did play, to his credit, a very good game, but Dongregu was just a better player. He stretched Cure too thin, and he did a lot of counterattacks to this 4th base and that 3rd base, which ended up bringing Cure to his knees and leaving him dry with no economy. So I guess this pretty much introduces the concept of having a plan to combat creep. It's kind of like a separate matchup, like units versus creep in the matchup of TvZ. So he uses a scan there, and then he uses the rest of his scans over here at specific times, first with the 2 Banshees, and then every single time when he pushes afterwards. And he does that to prevent the creep from spreading too far, as we can see on the mini-map. So that's very important, and very important to note. And so that's the end of that game that I want to show you guys. And I also want to, let me just load up StarCraft 2 really quickly. And I also wanted to, I guess, since I was able to go through that a lot quicker than my previous one, I'll go through some replays from IEM, Tasia versus Life specifically, so we can see another game plan in action that combats the spread of creep. Tasia, obviously, he's a good enough player, rest in peace, to recognize how important creep spread is and how important it is to deny it. So we're going to be looking at least one replay of Tasia versus Life and how Tasia combats creep spread, and where he does it and when he does it. Alright, let me just find the replay. Katowice main event, round of semifinals. Nope, round of 8. Alright, so let's see. Wow, these games are all super long. I guess I'll do, how about Frost? We'll start with the last game. Alright. Huh. Masters player and unranked. What kind of noobs enter a $100,000 tourney if they're not even Grandmaster? These freaking Korean noobs. And we're off. So, let's just take a look at Tasia's view for a second. We're not going to be focused on life. We just want to see what Tasia's doing. And looks like he's going to be doing a 14 command center build. Something interesting to note, the Overlord timing over here, it basically happens as soon as, if you go 12 racks, it happens as soon as the racks is finished. If you send your SCV over here, you can check for this Overlord. And basically when the CC starts, or when you start your racks, you can send an SCV over here to check if the Zerg player is spawned in this location. Because this is an Overlord pattern on this map in the direction you scout. Like in these positions, you always want the Overlord to scout the natural position first. Like you don't send your Overlord to the main, you send it to the natural area. So like if Life was here, he'd send his Overlord here instead of here first. So the same concept applies on each position of the map. So Tasia already knows where Life is. He gets kind of a good break. And Life knows what Tasia's doing, so this game opens up pretty normally. And what we're going to be paying attention to is the amount of creep spread that Life is able to produce, aka how many queens he makes and how much he commits to creep spreading, and what Tasia does to counter that. So it looks like Tasia's going to be doing a Hellion Banshee build, and he's going to be getting Cloak too, similar to what Cure did versus DRG in the previous game. And it looks like there's one tumor over here, and there's another tumor over here. So there's only 2 active creep tumors on the map, and in these locations, the important parts to creep are over here, and over here, and over here. To give you like vision of drops incoming, to see units over here, and to act as a buffer between the Terran army and also here. So that's where Life is going to be wanting to spread his creep, and that's also where Tasia is going to be wanting to deny that creep as well. So unlike Cure, Tasia has not exactly killed any creep tumors yet. He's actually focused more on economic harassment. So his game plan is slightly more different than Cure's. He's not too worried about the creep spread getting out of control on this map. It's kind of a harder map to spread creep to begin with as well. So let's just keep this on a bit on faster. See exactly when Tasia ends up scanning for creep. He kills a queen, which is really great. It prevents creep spreading because queens lay the tumors. It's kind of like going straight to the jugular instead of cutting off both your arms and then your legs and then the pinky toe and the eyes and everything else. So far, the creep spread, and Tasia's also aware of how far the creep spread is too. Like it's not that bad, but since the fourth base is a lot closer to the natural base, and the way this map is shaped, it's a lot easier to get the creep spread out to the fourth base. So it's not as important to spread creep on this map. So Tasia, let's see what he does. He still hasn't. This would normally be the time that you send your units to maybe like over here and then over here and then to do another scan. But Tasia, he is still focusing purely on economy, and he doesn't seem to be concerned with any scans going on, which is kind of interesting. So he's able to deny the fourth base, but he took some economic damage over here. And now he goes for the scan. Just when I gave up on that force, he goes for the scan. So let's take a look at what he does. He kills the fourth base, and then he wants to kill any tumors over here. This Overlord is kind of like tricky because it was spreading creep, so he doesn't know exactly what's a creep tumor and what's Overlord creep. So besides that, he scans, he kills one tumor, and then there's a bunch of units that end up driving him away. So he's kind of delayed creep now, and yeah, he's delayed creep kind of, but not really. He was able to pick off a couple active tumors, but the queen's just going to place them right down immediately. So he hasn't really delayed that much, but it is important to at least delay it somewhat. He wouldn't be able to win this game if he didn't scan right now, and if he like went from here to here, or to like here or something. And like this was very important to scan to delay the creep as much as possible, or not as much as possible, but just to delay it, because it's gonna take 15 seconds for the creep tumor to build, and then another like half a minute for it to start fanning out, and for the creep tumor to start creeping all over the map. So it wasn't nearly as important, or it wasn't nearly as effective. It was equally as important though. So now Tasia, he is going to be rallying forward, and another thing to note about this build is that even though he did open up Cloak Banshee, Reaper, or he went Hellion Banshee opener, the same as what True did, he has a different game plan. He wants to do economic damage. His Banshee was able to pick a couple drones off here earlier on. His first 2 medvacs denied the 4th base. So Tasia's playing a very economic game. He wants to try to deny as much as life's economy as possible, rather than creep spread and map control. So Tasia does an excellent job of targeting down those Widow Mines, and then he picks up. He did not do another scan though, which is kind of alright, because there's no 4th base here yet, and there's also this area that he has denied creep from, which he can come from as well. Oh, now he does a scan. I guess he just didn't have scan energy to begin with. But yeah, he does end up scanning there. It seems to be a common pattern for Terrans to, when they're pushing, to scan and kill creep. I think it's pretty obvious, but I also wanted to point that out. That pretty much every player does it, and they do it repeatedly throughout the game. But the main ways to actively deal with creep is to do like small timings, like we saw what Cure did with his Hellion force and his Banshee force, to do like separate creep tumor delays if you know that creep is going to be a problem later on. But life, his creep spread really isn't that great. I mean, there's 2 active tumors over here, there's another 2 active tumors here, and then there used to be 2 over here, but they got killed. So his creep spread really isn't the biggest problem, and Tasia recognizes that because he sees that the creep spread, it's not even enough for life to flank him, because he's still going to be off of creep when he engages. So Tasia isn't really too focused on creep this game, and he's more focused on trading and getting cost-efficient trades off. But I just wanted to focus on the creep, and we saw what Tasia was doing. He was focusing more on an economic-based game, and he also recognized that life isn't really spreading that much creep. So he didn't, he did throw down a couple scans still, and as a result there's no creep over here, but it wasn't as important to get rid of this creep and get rid of this creep with additional scans. So let's go to another one, because that was pretty short. Let's do the one on Heavy Rain, because that's kind of that's a similar map to Outboxer Station, so it'll be a better comparison, I guess, if you will. Alright. So, we're just gonna... No, let's look at both players' views for now. I don't want to be a racist towards Zerg. It could blow up in my face when I want to run for president one day. So, life is opening up pretty normally. He's getting his fast trademark speed, his lifeling speed. Tasia's doing a Reaper expand, and he hasn't taken his gas, so it looks like it's just going to be a regular... No, wow. So it is going to be a Hellion Banshee build again. Alright, so it's going to be another Hellion Banshee build. We'll see if Tasia does the same thing as he did on Frost, or if he'll do something more similar to Cure, because on this map there are multiple pathways. there's a fourth base to take there, or there's a fourth base to take there. And creep, if there's creep there, or if there's creep over here, really makes those two bases a lot more harder to attack into, because it acts as a buffer. So right now, Life doesn't really have many queens on creep spreading duty right now. He only has 2 active tumors going on at the time. He's more concerned with saving up some queen energy to use for transfuse in case Tasia decides to be ultra aggressive with his Hellions or anything like that. And so now his creep spread's kind of going, and any tumors that you can really snipe before they go down, or like while they're building, that you can snipe without a scan is kind of a bonus. The Zerg obviously has time to cancel them, but if you can like snipe the tumors, it's basically as good as a scan because it stops the creep spread from spreading, and you didn't have to use a scan for it. So yeah, like Tasia, snipe it please, snipe it. Oh. Okay, so I guess Tasia's not really the best player to watch if you want to copy control, if you want to know exactly how to deny creep. I guess creep doesn't really affect him that much because he plays a much more economic focused game, and he wants to deal more economic damage, so that even though there is creep spread, it won't matter as much because Life won't have as many units as Tasia does, because Tasia's trying to chip away at the economy. So basically Tasia, what we can note from this is that Tasia is going to be, he's going to be doing creep killing duties as like a very low priority. It's not as important to him as other places, so this will be kind of like a minimum benchmark that you should be doing in a matchup to control creep. As we can see, the creep spread, it's pretty unchecked. I don't think Tasia's killed a single tumor yet. So I'm kind of curious to see when Tasia's actually going to clear some tumors. So he does his first scan over here. It's into the middle of the map, and then he picks up and goes away. This kind of contradicts what I was saying before. Like, yeah, this is a good place. He got some creep tumors, but as opposed to this place, which is gonna protect this possible base, or this area, there's not that much creep spread, but just like being over here and checking to see if he should scan to deny a possible fourth base defense with the creep spread. So what this tells me is that he's kind of like not really focused on clearing out a pathway to attack the fourth base with, and he's more concerned with just that the creep doesn't spread too far over here, so that the Zerg has an easy peasy counterattack path plus speed bonus from the creep. So I guess that's why he just scanned over there, because he's very concerned about this counterattack pathway. So, fast forwarding 50 years into the future, when Tasia actually does do another scan. Alright, so we see here, he doesn't even bother to do a scan. Like, he stims, he places his Widow Mines, he's basically, he just wants to trade units as effectively as possible. And he does a scan over here, not to kill creep, but to check for Life's unit count. Wow, Tasia is like, he doesn't really care, he doesn't care about creep at all. That's very surprising. I guess he was kind of a bad player to choose from, but I don't really remember any other good TvZs. I guess there was DRG versus Revival. I guess we can check that out after we look at this game a little bit more to see if there's a game plan more suited to clearing creep, because like Tasia picked off that tumor, but he's left this creep unchecked, this creep unchecked. He cleared creep there, but he's basically using very minimal scans to clear creep. So I'm just going to check quickly to see if DRG, hopefully DRG will be a lot smarter about clearing creep. There it is. I unfortunately didn't watch these games. I was doing something else. I don't remember. Let's do Habitation Station. That looks promising. And plus it's good to look at all the different kinds of maps to see, so that I can at least point out different areas that they're gonna spread creep through. Like obviously through the watchtower is an important area, and then yeah, there's only like really two main areas. It's over here to the watchtower, and then over here defending this area, like defending the 4th base and the 3rd base, and then also over here later on to defend this base. So it's pretty straightforward where you want to be spreading creep on this map. Are you serious? Wow. Alright. I'm sorry that I didn't have these planned in advance. This is something extra I wanted to do because hopefully just be able to like get you guys more comfortable with thinking in different ways of how to deal with the creep spread. And Cure really did a great job at actively denying those creep tumors, as opposed to Tasia, whom we just saw in 2 replays, not give a flying F about creep spread. It's like, what is this? I can just move my units over because I'm Tasia and I'm a god. A minor god, because Flash is a major god, so that would make Tasia a minor god. A demigod, if you will. Alright, so this is Revival, or no, not Revival, this is Jockshi playing. So we'll see how effectively he deals with this creep spread. And on this map, creep spreading path, just into the middle and over here. It's pretty straightforward. I think this is one of the easier maps to spread creep in because there's no natural disaster, natural landmarks to really get in your way of spreading the creep. It's just a flat open field that you can paint creep with. Alright, so Jockshi's going for a really aggressive build. Let's see, he gets stim instead of combat shields. So this is going to be a 2-rax attack. And this is still a wonky game because Revival's getting speed roaches as well. Crazy. So this is another game plan that doesn't really rely on dealing with creep so much as trading units and trying to like limit the Zerg's economy rather than creep. I guess that's another way to play this matchup, because creep is a lot more map control based and killing units and limiting the economy and trading cost effectively isn't so much as map control, but as it is macro that you have as much supply as you can and good positioning and being able to take engagements pretty well. So right here, I mean, okay, so there's Mutalisks over there. Jockshi does have 2 scans available, but he chooses not to scan because he knows that Revival went for Roaches and then he rushed for Mutalisks as well. So it's kind of an interesting decision to see a player not scan on purpose. He wants to get into as good a position as possible because he knows that Revival's Bathing Nest is going to be delayed because he got so many speed roaches, and try to like get rid of the army and then potentially clear out scans. But see, Jockshi is just really, he's like Tasia, and he's really focused on dealing economic damage, and I mean, you can't fault him. It's a good trade, and he's able to get the 3rd base, but unfortunately it doesn't make me look any better. It just makes me look like a fool. But yeah, there's no other words to describe it. Like the creep spread, Jockshi could have scanned over here and then killed this base and then backed up to here and scanned and killed the creep, but instead he went into the main and into there and did a drop pattern into the possible 4th base location. And just one thing to note, Revival's Overlord spread is ridiculous. They're like all spread out into different positions. It's really crazy. He's really good map vision, and this is also due to in part because of the creep spread. So I don't think we're gonna get much more out of this game. I'm sorry that we weren't able to find some good replays to take a look at some really good ways to deny creep, but the Cure versus DRG game was actually the best game that I have on my mind at the moment. So yeah, I guess that's gonna wrap it up for today. I hope you guys learned something about getting rid of creep spread and to keep it under control, hopefully so that doesn't get out of control and just run over the game and run over everything that it creeps over. if you guys have any topics that you want me to go over, or if you want some more specific explanations on dealing with creep spread, maybe on a specific map, or there's a VOD that you guys want me to break down, then just let me know. Like, post a link and ask the question, and I'll get to the VOD as soon as I can. Alright.